you everyone for attending. This is a story of how dogged police work, ever-improving technology and science, helped lead to the indictment of a convicted murderer for a horrible crime committed more than 25 years ago. Christopher Fletcher, 50 years old, serving a life sentence for the murder of Elizabeth Salisbury in April of 1995, was indicted on December 23, 2011 for the rape and murder of 24-year-old Peggy Calvillo on Fitchburg on December 6th of 1986, an investigation that included the new head of our State Police Detective Unit, Lieutenant Fran Leahy. Ms. Calvillo, a mother of 2 young children, left her work shortly after midnight that day. She was waiting on Route 12 in Sterling for a ride. She decided to start walking when the ride wasn't there, and she was struck by a car driven by Mr. Fletcher. Severely injured from the impact, Ms. Calvillo was dragged into the car by Mr. Fletcher, taken to a remote location in Lancaster. While in the car, she asked to be brought to a hospital. Those pleas were ignored. Instead, she was raped and left for dead. Her body was found later that day under some power lines on Old Turnpike Road in Lancaster. Although Mr. Fletcher confessed to Ms. Calvillo's murder in 1995, and after his arrest in the Salisbury murder, forensics collected from the body of Ms. Calvillo did not match Mr. Fletcher's DNA, and the case was dropped. In September of 2009, the Unresolved Case Unit assigned to the Worcester District Attorney's Office, State Police Sergeant Detective Dan Richard and Administrator Angela Frost began a comprehensive reactivation of Ms. Calvillo's case. In light of the enhancements that have been made in forensic science since 1995, the Unresolved Case Unit decided to resubmit some of the items of physical evidence for re-examination. The Massachusetts State Police Forensic Group, in conjunction with the Worcester Police Unresolved Case Unit, examined the evidence. A federal grant obtained by the Worcester DA's office and the State Police paid for the testing. State Police chemist Jennifer Precinct, who handled testing at the state lab, sent some of the items to a private lab for further testing after she had made observations with regards to this evidence. Recently, we received a report from the private lab that DNA collected at the crime scene, which was further tested using the new technology, matched the DNA profile obtained for Mr. Fletcher. Assistant District Attorney Lisa Casella presented evidence to the Worcester County Grand Jury, and an indictment was handed up just before Christmas. Mr. Fletcher has been charged with the murder of Mrs. Calvillo. Are there any questions?
Joe, he said that he did it many years ago. He couldn't link him to it. Today in court, he said he didn't do it. Is this the guy?
We believe it is. Based on the science, based on the admissions that were made back in 1995, that's why we went forward with this indictment. We feel, yes, that this is the person who murdered Ms. Calvillo.
Back in 95, he also said that he murdered several other people. Are you going to go back and look at those cases as well and try and compare the DNA?
It's all part of the investigation. We are absolutely looking at all of the information that he's given us. We're not discounting evidence. That's something that the detectives have listened to. They're utilizing what they believe to be good evidence, what they to be producing good leads. They're pursuing all of those leads with regards to other possible homicides.
And there was recently a murder in the Norfolk prison that he was in of Mr. Silva. Is he being charged in that case as well?
That would be up to the district attorney's office in Norfolk County. Right now, we're just dealing with Mrs. Calvillo's murder.
Can you tell us, is he a suspect in homicides in any other states?
I can't answer that question.
Is this likely to go to trial, or because he confessed to it 25 years ago, do you anticipate just some kind of plea and then, he's already in prison?
No, we anticipate this going to trial. You heard him today say, entered a plea of not guilty. We expect this to go to trial in a first-degree murder case, yes.
Can you tell us how your office or the police detectives got in touch with the victim's family and let them know that this case was going to be reopened and that there may be some closure?
Well, Margaret Rwamba and our victim witness unit, the detectives assigned to the case, our first assistant Dan Bennett, all met, and the family was notified after we received some of the information that this was going to be coming forward, keeping in mind the feelings of the family. The pain, as you can see, is still etched on their faces, just like it was 25 years ago. We reached out through our Margaret Rwamba and our victim witness unit and other members of the office, Assistant District Attorney Lisa Casella, to let them know that this was coming.
You talked to them. Are they thankful? Are they relieved? Are they? What are they today?
Well, I think you could ask Tim Connolly. The family is asked to provide some information through Mr. Connolly. Obviously, the pain is very real. This is a murder. This is a loss of life. It's still very real for all of them. They just hope to see some justice and closure in this case.
Can
Would
you
you,
tell us how many cases he's possibly suspect in this state?
No, I can't tell you that at that point. I can just tell you that he's given us information with regards to other cases, and we are exploring all of the information that he has given us, which we believe to be credible.
Can you say 12 cases?
I can't say, can't give you a number, no.
Other unsolved murders, is that what you're talking about right now?
That type of case, yes, that type of incident, that type of thing is what we're looking at, yes. That's the type of information he provided.
Do you
Just-
believe he's a serial murderer?
Well, you know, that's a phrase. We believe he committed this murder.
And another?
Yes, he's in jail for the murder that this office prosecuted back in 1995 in the death of Mrs. Salisbury, and as mentioned already, he is under investigation in the Norfolk murder.
And when you said that you were able to tie DNA from the scene to DNA that you had from him, can you tell us what specifically from the scene you were able to kind of attach?
Well, there were things, and you have to give, I had talked to Jennifer Prissig at the State Police Crime Lab. With regards to evidence, she made observations. Now, we don't call it a cold case unit, it's our unresolved unit, which was done at the behest of John Bish, Molly Bish's dad. These cases aren't cases that sit on a counter somewhere and aren't being touched. These are cases that they're constantly getting leads on and they're constantly being worked on. Detective Sergeant Richards and Angela Frost were poring over many boxes of evidence. This is one of them where we felt there was a high probability that we may be able to solve them. With regards to information in the box, particularly information from the sexual assault kit, there was information that was provided back in 1995. That information came back negative with regards to Mr. Fletcher. A further observation by Ms. Pressig with regards to the things in the box, she noted a discoloration, if you would, on part of the sexual assault kit. That was submitted for testing. That is what came back positive.
So was it like a better sample? Was it something that maybe it had more evidence on it? And that she noticed that maybe what was tested before wasn't as strong a sample as what she sent?
Well, the information that they provided in 1995, they felt was the strongest sample. But what you got to remember is literally this technology changes almost monthly. What they had in 1995 and what they have now is basically the difference between the type of thing that they're using on a daily basis and what used to be in the textbooks, the things that they originally started learning with regards to DNA. The stuff we have now is light years ahead. One of the reasons we're going through all of these old boxes, all of these old cases, seeing what we can find, whether it be a sexual assault kit, whether there's blood evidence, whether there's clothing, hairs, fibers, the type of things that you couldn't use to prove a case back then, but you can use now.
So what's the bottom line message to other victims' families that, like this family that waited 25 years, we're going to catch the killers?
We're never going to give up hope. We're never going to stop. We keep looking at all of these cases. We know how the victims feel. We can see the pain. The pain is there just like the crime had occurred yesterday. Yes, we're going to keep, it's dogged police work. We're never saying no. We're going to keep going, doing everything we can to bring these killers to justice, you know, so that we can bring closure to the family, give them some type of closure, give them some type of relief. They've lost a loved one, but we've got to do what we need to do to help bring that to an end.
would you say Mr. Fletcher's a suspect or a person of interest in any other unsolved murders?
Not with any particular name, Gary, but what I would tell you, yes, he is a person of interest with regards to several other cases.
And do you know, has he always been in Massachusetts? You know, because there's a lot of unsolved cases around the years, you know, between 86 and 95. So was he in Massachusetts during that time?
I can't tell you that at this point. I can just tell you he's been in jail since 1995.
But you don't know where he was prior, or you're just not saying?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been in office now 5 years. I don't know where he was prior to the Salisbury killing.
Did I understand you correctly that the DNA, this latest round of DNA testing involved evidence from the rape kit?
The sexual assault, the rape test, yes.
Okay.
That was taken back in 1986, excuse me.
Obviously, the victim's family is here. Do you think you can tell us who's here? I mean, I don't want to put them on the spot, but is this the parents of the victim, the children?
I could let them introduce themselves, or we could do it through Mr. Connolly right after the press conference.
Yeah, we'll give you a list of people to review.
With recent cold cases being reopened in Worcester County and having some steps forward because of retesting DNA evidence, are we still looking at continuing to reopen a number of cold cases, and how do you weigh which ones are reopened and
Well, it's a determination that's made by the police as they look at it. What do we have for physical evidence? Is that the type of thing, with their knowledge of what DNA is now, is that something that could not have been tested in '85, during the '80s, during the early '90s, but generally could be tested now, and there's an indication or likelihood we might get some results. They'll look and see what's in the evidence boxes. You got to remember, with regards to unresolved cases, time can be an enemy right around the time of the murder. But as time passes, time can be a friend. Relationships dissolve. Someone who may have been in a situation where they were protecting one, protecting a spouse, protecting a boyfriend or a girlfriend, those relationships end too. They no longer have that need to protect someone or don't want to protect someone. Sometimes these things, they wear on people, they come forward and they give us this type of information. You put all of these things, all of these factors together, and these are the type of things that lead us. New information, new witnesses, new DNA. Those are the type of things that give us an indication of what the likelihood is that we may have a lead or an ability to reopen a case or seek an indictment or proceed further on those cases.
Could you go back just to the beginning? I'm sorry, but at the beginning you started to say, when was this case picked up again? You said somebody came into office and...
No, what happened was in 1995, Ms. Salisbury was murdered. After that arrest for that murder, Mr. Fletcher gave a statement to the troopers assigned to the Worcester DA's office. In that, he admitted to facts regarding the 1986 murder, kidnapping, and rape of Ms. Calvillo. What we did then is the investigation was reopened at that point. At that point, excuse me, it wasn't reopened, it was started. DNA information was submitted, but it came back negative. Recently, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we resubmitted information that was within the evidence box itself. This information was sent out to the State Police Crime Lab. Ms. Pressig took some of the information, sent it to Cellmark. We had money from a federal grant to get some of this testing done. We had also hired, in addition to the unresolved case, what this information recently came back in December 2011, came back, and it indicated that we had Mr. Fletcher, enough information to charge Mr. Fletcher with regards to this murder.
When you talked about Mr. Fletcher providing information, you're talking about back in '95, or was it more recent? Was he?
1995, yes.
Did he tell you anything about motive back then?
He gave a statement. I don't want to get into the statement at this point, but he gave a statement. He gave particular details that we felt that only the person who could have committed this murder would have known.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.